This Halloween season, I watched over 50 horror movies. Hold for applause and also for comments telling me to get a job. Because I watched so many movies, not all of them were good, but some of them were great. And I thought it'd be fun to basically do the exact same thing I did last year and make a tier list of every horror movie I watched this Halloween season. I'm gonna keep this spoiler free, but I'm going to do basically just like a little chit chat and like brief summary on each of the movies I watched. This is probably gonna be a long one because there are a lot of movies. So yeah, kick back, grab a snack, I don't know, do something in the background and hang out with me while I chit chat about horror movies because I watch so many horror movies and I love talking about them. The tiers for this are pretty straightforward. For the best of the best top tier, we have Hell Yeah. These are obviously my favorite horror movies that I've watched this Halloween season. The best of the best, 10 out of 10s. Some of them becoming like some of my favorite horror movies of all time. Pretty damn good, which means it's a horror movie that is quite good, but just like not one of my like absolute favorites, but still undeniably like great. That's nice, which is basically like, that was fine. Not really many complaints, but also like not really a standout. Sure, why not? Which is basically, it was mid. This is basically going to be the category where everything that was like just fine goes. It's just plain bad, which is going to be where I put movies that I think are just objectively not very good. I actually have some like pretty controversial takes that I'm going to include. So get ready to yell at me, maybe. Boring, which I think deserves its own tier because being boring is pretty much the worst thing a horror movie can be, in my personal opinion. And then obviously the bottom tier, which is this movie made me feel like an iPad baby craving Cocomelon, which I think is pretty self-explanatory. Last year I did these movies in alphabetical order, but this year I'm doing them in the chronological order of like when I watched them, which makes a lot more sense. We have Weapons. I am a big fan of Barbarians, so I was very excited to watch Weapons. I didn't know anything going into this movie, and that's honestly probably the best way to watch it. To keep this as spoiler-free as possible, Weapons is basically about a class of children. I mean, you could read the poster that like disappear from one teacher's class, all except for one kid. And it's basically like a mystery, kind of like a supernatural mystery, following along with a bunch of different characters trying to figure out what happened to these kids. This movie is great. A lot of people say it's overrated. I don't care. I'm putting it in pretty damn good. I really like this director. I think the stuff he does is really cool. Next up is One Cut of the Dead. And something which may make people immediately leave is I am a huge found footage fan. I love it. I even want like the ones that kind of suck. This is not one of those. This is not a found footage movie that sucks. This movie is fucking excellent. I think you should go into this movie as blind as possible. Generally, the premise of this movie is that there is a person filming a zombie movie, but then some things start going wrong on the set of the zombie movie, which indicate that they're like real zombies. I'm not going to give away any more than that, but this movie is absolutely fantastic. It's hilarious. It's very much a comedy. It is very self-aware and very funny, and it's hilarious. I think even if you don't like found footage, you'll still like this movie. I give this movie a proper 10 out of 10. I think this movie is so awesome. I'm going to try and like order these slightly as I add them into tiers, but this definitely goes into Hell Yeah. This is a phenomenal movie. I loved it. It was a really strong start to my Halloween season. Speaking of, my Halloween season technically starts September 13th because I did Hooptober this year, which is a challenge on Letterboxd started by Cinemonster, which basically aims to like get you to fill certain categories in order to broaden your horizons when watching horror movies. It has a lot of criteria, like watch like movies from like, you know, like 7 different countries, watch this many zombie movies, lots of fun stuff, which definitely broadened my horizons and got me to watch movies that I have either been putting off or like had never heard of, but also broadened my horizons in a way where I realized that there's a lot of movies I don't like, but we'll get there. Next movie, which is entirely different from that and not funny at all, Martyrs. If you've been in the horror sphere for any amount of time, you're probably familiar with Martyrs. I have been meaning to watch this movie for a very, very long time, and I knew very little about it. This movie is difficult for me to rate and also difficult for me to describe. Basically, the premise of this movie is that there are people who have experienced a lot of hardship and they're trying to seek revenge. But then a lot of things go very, very wrong. Needing to censor myself a little bit because of YouTube stuff. It's really difficult for me to place this movie on a rating system because on one hand, I think they did an objectively incredible job with this movie. I think that they accomplished exactly what they set out to do, and I think that the messaging was very clear and very well done. It's obvious that like a lot of the themes of the movie are like trauma and how it impacts you and things like that. And like the way that they conveyed that through like supernatural forces and like the visuals, I think they did that incredibly well. On the other hand, I didn't enjoy watching it at all. And obviously it's supposed to be like very difficult to watch, but I don't really necessarily mean it in that way. I just think that the way it was directed, like, wasn't really my cup of tea. I am struggling to put this in that's nice because it's not. I don't want to put it in sure why not because that's where I'm putting movies that are mid, but also I don't think it's pretty damn good on my personal ranking. I think it's objectively great. Like, I think it's very well done. It's just for my personal tastes, it's not my favorite. So I'm gonna put it in that's nice, which feels very wrong, but I don't have a better tier. I should have made a tier that's just like, this is for martyrs. I don't know what to say. Moving on. A Tale of Two Sisters, which also has been on my watch list for a very long time. This is a Korean film that follows two sisters that were released from a mental institution and kind of like investigates their like family life and a lot of very dramatic and strange things that are happening in the house. I could not predict a single twist that happened in this movie, which is pretty rare for me. I usually can kind of call it when movies are trying to be twisty and turny. I couldn't guess a single fucking thing that happened in this movie. I'm putting it in pretty damn good. Dark Waters, not to be confused with Dark Water, the Japanese film, or to be confused with Dark Water, the American remake. Just an entirely other movie. I put this on my watch list to fill some type of criteria for Hooptober, and no one recommended this movie to me, and I had never heard of it. And I think there's a reason for that. I don't think it was very good, but it was visually stunning. There were a lot of scenes, especially in the beginning, that were just like visually very beautiful. It follows a woman whose father passes away and then she goes to an island basically to investigate like where he was diverting funds into this like convent to be like, why is my father spending all this money here? It has a very predictable ending. I'm going to put it into sure, why not? Because I wasn't really offended while watching it, and it definitely wasn't boring, but it also wasn't good. Silence of the Lambs. Yes, this is my first time watching this movie. As I go through this list, you're gonna see that there's a lot of like classic quintessential horror movies that I just straight up haven't seen. At this point, I've seen almost 300 horror movies, so I'm really behind on padding in like these are must-see horror movies. And I've seen a lot of like bullshit. So with Hooptober, I tried to fit in as many classics as I could. Silence of the Lambs, I don't think I have to explain. It's about a cannibal and a detective investigating a kind of related crime. This movie is obviously objectively great. A little bit question mark on that Buffalo Bill character, but like, it's a classic. I'm obviously going to put Silence of the Lambs in pretty damn good. I don't think I have to explain that one. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Suspiria, which for some reason is already very tiny. Again, a classic. I didn't really know what I was getting into when I watched this movie. I knew the name and I knew it was about ballerinas, and otherwise I didn't know anything about it. But I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. The movie is beautiful. The score is incredible. The acting is terrible, but who cares? Because it's awesome. The ending was a little bit not my favorite, but it was obviously great. Basically, this movie is about a ballerina who goes to Germany to be a part of a dance academy, and maybe there's something funky going on in that dance academy, which is there's no lesbians in this movie. How do you have a ballet academy that is mostly women that also has witches, and then none of them are lesbians? That seems wrong to me. I feel like that's the gayest thing I've ever heard, but regardless, it's going in pretty damn good. Impedagore. The cover of this movie caught my eye on Shudder, and it's quite good. It starts with my favorite premise of most movies, which is person goes to creepy, possibly cursed village. I love a creepy little cursed village. That's like my favorite place a horror movie can happen. So obviously this movie I am incredibly biased toward. But it's about two girls who go to a freaky little village, and basically they're trying to like find out if one of the houses there belongs to their parents, and then finds out that things are really wrong in this little village. This movie was really cool. I don't know if it's in the same tier as the ones I have in pretty damn good, even though I did like it a lot. I'm gonna put it in that's nice. I think that's fair. Somnium. This movie is about an aspiring actress who tries to work at a place that is sort of like Lacuna from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. This movie does what Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind does, but not as good. It was still cute and fun. Like, I really didn't have any problems with it, but it was kind of just fine. So I'm gonna put it in sure, why not? If you're interested in like dreams and like nightmares and themes like that, then you should probably check out this horror movie, but there were other movies on this list I like more, basically. The Evil Dead, another classic. I've seen Evil Dead, the remake, and I love that movie, but I haven't seen the original, and this movie was just okay. I honestly can't remember a lot from this movie, which is really saying something because the Evil Dead remake is crazy. This movie was incredibly mid. Basically a bunch of teenagers / young adults go to a cabin, and there's evil stuff there. I don't know if you could have guessed that by the title. I thought it was just okay. However, Evil Dead 2 was hilarious. This movie is so fun. It's basically like a direct sequel from what happened in The Evil Dead. It literally jumps off from like the second The Evil Dead ends. It follows a surviving character and basically like It's kind of just nonsense. I really don't want to spoil anything about this movie, but I feel like if I were to pick any movie off of this list to kind of just throw on the TV for a group of friends who didn't really mind violence, but also just kind of like wanted to have something on in the background to watch for fun, this would be like my top pick. Really just like a really good time. I'm gonna put it in That's Nice. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No spoiler, but slight spoiler, they only kill one person with a chainsaw in this entire movie. So why is it called that? Obviously for Hooptober, which is named after Tobe Hooper, I had to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I liked this, but unfortunately I found that a lot of the visuals that were in the beginning, in the scene where they were like had the flash photography showing all the like the yucky nastiness, that really set the stage for what I thought was going to be like an actually like super scary like spooky movie. And it was kind of just like a bunch of kids breaking and entering into someone's house who's kind of minding their own business. It's really hard to feel bad for the characters in this movie when literally they just be walking into somebody's house. Like they're just waltzing into someone's house without asking. Not to like victim blame, but like don't do that. But yeah, I thought this movie was good. I'm gonna put it in That's Nice because I kind of expected more based off the way it opened, but I do think it was quite good. Tales from the Hood. This movie was excellent. This movie was so awesome. This movie is basically Tales from the Crypt, but it's like an anthology of different like scary stories that kind of like link together, all to be about like Black culture and the experience of like being Black in America. It's funny, it's witty, it's sharp, it's sad. This is going in pretty damn good. I think this is like quintessential. Like I feel like you have to watch this movie. Speaking of you have to watch this movie, this movie is so good! Candyman has been on my watch list forever, and I just keep forgetting to watch it. And I finally watched it. And this is now, like, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. This movie is so good. To describe what happens in this movie, it's basically white people fucking around and finding out. This movie follows a graduate student, I believe, who is doing a study on a figure named Candyman, and basically, like, how it's impacting a Black community in Chicago. It's just excellent. This is a 10 out of 10 movie. Spoiler, but this is my favorite movie that I watched this Halloween season. The pacing is excellent. The storytelling is excellent. It literally like does not miss a beat. It is perfect. Next is The Sacrament. This movie is difficult to rate because when I went in to watch this movie, I didn't realize how heavily inspired by the Jonestown Massacre it was. They did that thing where they're like, everything that happens in this movie is fictional, even though it's very clearly inspired by real life events, to the point where it's like almost like beat for beat what happened in the Jonestown Massacre. So because of that, I feel like it's a little like ethically icky. But on the other hand, it's very effective. If you're not familiar, this movie is about a cult and basically like a couple of Vice documentarians who go to like film the cult and like see what they're all about. They really don't pull punches on this movie. Like in terms of like showing what happens in the end, if you can take a wild guess, it's very graphic in a way that like made me pretty like sick to my stomach, which doesn't really happen with horror movies, but like because it felt so real, like and plausible, it felt extra gross. But like I feel like that was kind of the point, so it's hard to say it was bad. I'm gonna put it in Sure Why Not, with the caveat that I do feel like it is a little ethically but you can't deny that the desired impact is there. Next we have Terrifier. I technically watched this like slightly before Halloween season, and also I've rewatched it during Halloween with my partner, so I feel like I'm gonna include it anyway. I watched the Terrifier franchise in preparation for going to Halloween Horror Nights, and I'm so glad I did because I was able to appreciate the Terrifier like scare house way more because of it. I know the Terrifier is very divisive. I like it. The first one, not so much. The first one didn't really hit for me. I know there's people who really like the first movie, but then like don't really like the energy of the other movies. I'm the opposite. I liked 2 and 3, but I thought the first one was just fine. It's not nearly as gory as people made it out to be. Honestly, these movies kind of feel just like a buffet of special effects. Kind of just like a showcase of practical effects and like what the artists can do. You've probably heard of Terrifier, so I don't know if I necessarily need to explain it to you, but clown kill people is the general vibe. I originally had it in That's Nice, but I actually think I'm going to put it into Sure Why Not, but like the upper part of that tier. I can 100% see why people don't like these movies, but I like it. I find them fun. Nosferatu. Here's where I start embarrassing myself. Nosferatu is a silent movie from 1922. If you can take a wild guess, it is about a vampire. I want to be cultured. I generally have a pretty unwavering attention span when it comes to horror movies. It might be because I'm not used to watching silent movies, and this movie was just very different from what I'm used to, but this movie made me feel like a hamster gnawing on the bars of my enclosure, just so understimulated. I'm sure you can now understand the purpose of the tier. This movie made me feel like an iPad baby craving Cocomelon. This movie made me feel stupid and uncultured because I couldn't pay attention to it. This is so embarrassing, but I watched this movie on 2x speed and I still struggled to pay attention, which is not like me at all. I don't watch anything on 2x speed ever. So I'm putting it in that tier only because I can't say it's boring or bad, because I think this is a me problem. Like, I feel like this is not the fault of the movie. This is the fault of my brain. Next is The Wicker Man, which is the original, and I'm going to just rip the band-aid off. I thought this movie was terrible. This movie is about a detective who goes to an island to try and investigate a missing child. You probably know that The Wicker Man is about a cult, and that this island is freaky deaky. This is probably gonna make some people mad. I like the Nicolas Cage version better, because at least that one's funny. The song about, like, corn and barley... It's so bizarre. It's such a strange movie. Like, again, this is just my personal taste. I don't necessarily think this is like an objectively bad movie, but I personally hated it. I'm putting it in It's Just Plain Bad. I'm sorry if you like that movie. I know it's very well loved, but I hated it. I hated it so much. I'm gonna just drag Vampire in here, and this is another kind of silent movie, and I'm just going to, you don't need to worry about it. It's about a vampire. You don't need to worry about it. Just don't look. I don't want to talk about it. I'm sure it's a classic. I'm sure this is an excellent movie. Just my brain can't do it. Anyway, Terrifier 2. I think this movie is awesome. My brain is a pile of pudding. I don't know. The thing I like about this movie over the first movie is that this is a magical girl movie. I will not be taking any questions, and I will not be arguing with you because I made a tweet that said this is a magical girl movie, and Damien Leone liked it. So... it's confirmed, I guess. I don't know, maybe he just goes through and, like, likes anything that mentions Terrifier, but he didn't like my other 2 tweets that mentioned Terrifier 1 and 3, so I'm considering that canon. This is a magical girl movie. I love Sienna. I love the fact that we have a cosplay final girl. I like that they got silly, goofy, supernatural with it. I thought it was funny. I don't necessarily know if these movies are good, but they sure are a blast. I think I'm going to put it into That's Nice. I think that's fair. I like movies that are very good and that you need to, like, watch videos to, like, deep dive on them. I like those types of movies, and I also like movies that are just silly, goofy, and fun. And this is one of those. The Conspiracy. This is a found footage movie, and usually I'm a sucker for found footage movies, but this movie was so boring. Kind of disappointed. It was basically just like, what if the world was controlled by XYZ? Intercut with, like, a bunch of, like, 9/11 footage? I don't know. Not for me. And also, it was kind of a snooze fest. It's pretty hard to get me to not like a found footage movie, so, like, honestly, that is a scathing review from me. But yeah, I didn't like it. Terrifier 3. I'm going to put this in the same tier as Terrifier 1, only because I like Terrifier 2 so much more. I feel like I can't really put them in the same tier. But yeah, clown kills people. Alien. I was really hoping this movie would scare me because I'm very afraid of space. What happens in space and what happens at the bottom of the ocean is none of my business. Not interested. If Earth becomes uninhabitable, that's it for me. Leave me behind. I'm not going. So I was really hoping this movie would get a scare out of me, even though I don't get scared at, like, any movie ever. Unfortunately, it did not get a scare out of me. It also wasn't as, like, action-packed as I kind of hoped it would be, but I did think it was really good, and I did think it was very important that she went back for her cat. The willingness to potentially get killed by an alien in order to bring your cat with you is very admirable. I liked that. I'm gonna put it in That's Nice, because it wasn't one of my, like, all-time favorites, but it was very good. Pet Sematary, the original. This movie was not for me. Basically, it's about a family that, like, moves into, like, a house in a new area, and they live next to a highway, and they have an outdoor cat. What could possibly go wrong? Have you ever heard of a fence? Have you ever heard of a fence? I don't know. I thought this movie was, like, decent. A lot of the imagery in it is, like, pretty properly creepy, but I, like, couldn't really wrap my head around the logic for a lot of the characters, which made me kind of struggle to enjoy it. I'm gonna put it in Sure Why Not, but honestly, I really need to move Dark Waters because that movie is... Should I just move it to It's Just Plain Bad? I'm gonna just move it to the very bottom of this tier, because I don't think it was bad, but it's on thin fucking ice. Devil's Backbone. I love Guillermo del Toro. This isn't my favorite film of his, but I did like it. It kind of is only sort of a horror movie. I would consider this more of a thriller. The ghost in this movie is very polite and nice, and not scary at all. It's mostly about, like, the war. The premise of this movie is more or less that there's an orphanage, and there's kids there, and weird stuff is happening, and also the adults are doing a bunch of sus stuff. I feel like that's not a very good description, but I don't know how else to describe it without giving away spoilers. I'm going to put this in That's Nice. It's no Pan's Labyrinth, but I did like it. Zombieland. It is a horror comedy about a zombie apocalypse, but Jesse Eisenberg is there. This movie is cute and fun and very silly. It was good. Again, the characters in this movie are idiots. But yeah, it's very good. It's fun. If you want a horror comedy about zombies, it's a good choice. Mandy, which I've heard basically nothing about, but this movie is awesome. This movie is a psychedelic revenge movie with cult vibes. This movie is visually awesome. It's so cool. Nicolas Cage in this movie is great. Yeah, this movie is fucking sick. Super underrated, I feel like. I don't hear anyone talk about this movie. A super controversial one, 28 years later. I loved this movie. I think it's the best iteration in the 28 blank series. I know a lot of people really hated this movie, especially the ending. I thought the ending was funny, but also I went into it knowing that it was setting up for a sequel. So if you went into the theaters thinking this was going to be like the final film and wasn't going to lead into another movie, I can definitely feel like the tonal whiplash of the ending would have put you off a little bit. This movie has a lot of very split opinions, but I thought this movie was beautiful and awesome. I really like zombie movies that are kind of like movies where there is a zombie apocalypse, but the actual core of the movie is about people, and this is one of those. Stylistically gorgeous, the acting was incredible. It was heartbreaking and beautiful, which I didn't really expect from a 28 blank movie. Yeah, I thought this movie was great. Wreck 2, which is the sequel for Wreck. This movie sucked ass. It was so boring. It was terrible. It starts off in the same like quarantine building as Wreck. This movie is kind of just people yelling at each other for the entire runtime. Everyone in this movie is infuriating. It is incredibly boring. I also watched this one on 2x speed. But for this one, I don't think that's like a me problem. I don't think this was an attention span thing. I think this movie was just genuinely awful, but I didn't want to DNF it. The Strange Vice of Miss Ward. This movie had boobies. This is what I think is called a Giallo film, which I am not super versed in, but I wanted to give it a shot. I haven't heard anyone talk about this movie. I've heard this movie recommended by absolutely no one. I just picked it off of a list because it was about a lady, so I thought it can't possibly be bad. I didn't like it. I thought it was just fine. I wasn't at all interested in the mystery. I don't know if I just don't like that genre of movie, but I'm gonna put it in boring. I'm gonna give this genre another shot, but I don't really think this is the one for me. The general premise is that there's like a guy murdering people. There's a bunch of naked ladies that get murdered. So if you're into that, this is a movie for you. It just wasn't really for me. Hellraiser. I find the tagline for this movie, Devil to Some, Angels to Others, really funny because like, angel to who? This is another movie that I've been meaning to get around to for a really long time. I didn't expect this movie to be like part family drama. It's about a family that moves into a house that had been previously occupied by like the dad's brother. And the dad's brother was up to some freaky shit. If I'm being honest, I didn't really care about the whole like stepmother subplot. That just like didn't really tick any boxes for me. However, the practical effects in this movie were kick-ass. Visually, this movie was awesome. The part where they were like running something along like wallpaper and like blood was dripping down, so cool. This movie wasn't really what I was expecting, but I did really like it. I'm gonna put this movie in pretty damn good. I feel like on the basis of like the practical effects alone, I want to put it all the way up there because I really liked looking at the gooey boys. When the guy was like just like a big bony, no spoilers, but a big, you know what I mean. If you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. I like that. Dawn of the Dead, I'm gonna keep this brief because it's gonna make people mad. I really didn't like this movie. I know this is a classic. I know that it's like quintessential horror. I know this is like the zombie movie. First of all, I didn't know this was a sequel. Is it a sequel? Seemed like a sequel once I got more into it, but I liked how it kind of just like hit the ground running. I don't really care about not seeing the other movie because I liked just kind of like getting right into like the newsroom where they're talking about the impacts of the zombie apocalypse. I thought that was cool. I also really liked how they're kind of just like fucking around in the mall. I liked all those scenes. It was kind of like mundane, which I thought was like a really interesting thing to do in a zombie movie. But I also don't understand how anyone got bit by any zombies in this movie because they're so slow. I know that might be like kind of a stupid take, but like those zombies were not schmoving at any capacity. I feel like this movie should have been maybe like 30 minutes shorter. I don't think it was bad. It wasn't for me. So I'm gonna put it in sure why not, because if you like zombie movies, you honestly probably have to watch this movie. It's honestly like a course prerequisite. Next up is Black Phone. I heard that the second movie was coming out and I'm trying not to fall further behind on classics. And this felt like it was gonna be a classic. Yeah, this movie was good. Hi, Fern. The kids in this movie were incredible actors, especially the two siblings. Their chemistry was really good. Ethan Hawke killed it in this movie. This movie is basically just about a series of like children going missing, and then the protagonist of this movie, who's a little boy, gets kidnapped by that person and needs to escape. And also there is a phone. Yeah, I thought this movie was good. This movie is also like really sad, honestly. I'm debating whether to put it into pretty damn good or that's nice. I feel like based on the acting alone, I want to put it in pretty damn good. Even like if you completely ignore the plot, the acting in this movie is just incredible. I think we're about 2/3 of the way there. Cat People. This was part of the group of like old movies that I had on my Hooptober list. After my experiences with Nosferatu and Vampire, I was feeling a little bit wary about getting into these, but I like this one. All men do is cheat and tell you you're not a cat and lie. This movie's about a woman who comes from a culture where apparently people turn into cats. And the movie is basically about her like grappling with this part of her culture and like what it might mean for her, and also with her like shitty ass husband. Yeah, this movie was cool. I don't think I would put it in either of these categories, but I'm going to put it in sure why not. Out of the like old movies I've watched, this is definitely up there. Exhibit A. Yeesh. This movie made me sick to my fucking stomach. This is a found footage movie. The premise of this movie is basically that there's a family and the dad is very much keeping secrets. The acting in this movie kind of reminded me of Lake Mungo, where like the acting is so good, it feels too real, and that makes me very uncomfortable. The events in this movie made me feel so sad to my core. I think it was really well done, but I really didn't like watching it. This doesn't have any of the like levity that most found footage movies have. A lot of found footage movies have, at least to some degree, like the characters on screen joking around. This movie is like purely like uncomfortable and distressing start to finish. The movie is told from the perspective of the youngest daughter, and her perspective is very sad, and it made me very sad. If you're a fan of found footage movies, but you don't like how silly and goofy they are, and you just want to be really upset by something that feels a little bit too realistic, this is the one for you. I think they did what they set out to do perfectly. It was just very upsetting. So I'm putting it in that's nice. But also, it was not nice. It was not at all nice. Creature from the Black Lagoon. This is my bestie's favorite movie, and my bestie does not like violent movies or like really scary movies, and I want a movie to traumatize me. I added this to my Hooptober watch list specifically because it was their favorite movie, so obviously I had to watch it with them. If I wasn't watching it in a group, I don't know how much I would like it, but because I watched it with my friends, and my friends are hilarious, and I love them, I had a good time watching it. I'm gonna put it in sure why not. It was more or less just like about like people who go to like an exotic place and then are like, why is this guy attacking us? And then they drug a bunch of fish. There wasn't like anything deeper to investigate about this movie, but that fish man sure was a fish. Candyman, the new one. This movie was very good. I love the visuals in this movie, especially like how they told like the story of Cabrini Green through like puppetry and like paper crafts. I thought that was really beautiful and really sick. I feel like thematically this movie wasn't as like tight as the original. They had a lot of scenes thrown in there that felt like they were basically just thrown in there to like be scary. So they didn't flesh out like the thematic elements as much, which was pretty much my only like negative note about this movie. It was great. Rather than centering on a academic white protagonist, this movie centers on a black artist who is living also in the same apartment building that the original like main character in Candyman lived in. But this is like several years later, where basically like the events of Candyman, the original, have become urban legend. I really like what they did with this movie. I feel like in terms of like rebooting a classic, like this is the best you could possibly do. I'm gonna put it in pretty damn good. The Rule of Jenny Penn. This movie follows a judge who experiences a stroke, and even though he's a very like well-read, like educated individual, he starts to experience cognitive decline as he's in like palliative care, which is terrifying. The premise of this movie is terrifying. And all while he's experiencing this, there is a resident of like the care facility he's in who's just terrorizing residents. And because he's experiencing cognitive decline, no one believes him when he tries to tell people what's happening. This movie stressed me out so fucking much. This movie is extremely underrated. I don't hear many people talk about this movie, but I thought it was really good. If you are someone who is really scared of cognitive decline and also thinks the way that elderly people are treated is very sad and upsetting, then you can probably appreciate this movie. I'm going to put it in that's nice. Again, it's not. This movie made me very sad. I definitely think this movie isn't getting the appreciation that I think it deserves, so you should definitely check it out if you haven't. The Others, a classic. I haven't seen this movie since it came out when I was a kid. I somewhat remembered the twist. I remembered part 1 of the twist, but not part 2 of the twist. And the twist hits. Even in 2025, the twist still hits. This movie is about a family that moves into a house that they believe is haunted, and the kids are allergic to sunlight, and they hire people to take care of the children, and things are weird. The house seems haunted. It's going in Sure That's Nice. This movie is obviously good. Bones and all. This is my first time watching a Luca Guadagnino movie. This isn't really a spoiler because you find out in the first, 10 minutes, but this movie is about cannibals. It's basically about a young woman who is feeding into certain cannibal urges. This movie is about a very not fun road trip with some very not fun things happening, but it's also very sweet and heartbreaking and, romantic. Yeah, this movie is very good. I'm really excited to watch more movies from this director. I have another one that's coming up in this list. Ring 2! The Ring, the American remake, is one of my favorite movies of all time. I also do like Ringu. I also liked The Ring 2, the American version. This movie is bad, which breaks my heart to say because I like this series so much. I was literally Samara for Halloween and I made my husband be the Well. But yeah, this unfortunately is, not a good sequel. There are some visuals that are pretty effectively eerie, but this feels overall pointless. And if you have a movie that's as strong as Ringu, then I feel like you really have to nail it with the sequel, and this just feels like it didn't have to happen. Movie number 42. Annabelle! I've seen all but the newest Conjuring movie, and I've also seen The Nun, but somehow haven't seen any of the Annabelle movies until I watched this one. This is the definition of mid. Doll Haunted is pretty much the entire premise of this movie. It is mid. I'm now thinking I should move Terrifier 3 up, because I don't think Terrifier 3 is mid. I'm moving it up into lower That's Nice tier. The Blackwell Ghost. Do you like found footage movies, no matter how mid they are? Yes? Then you're like me and you'll like this movie. This movie is about a guy who wants to make a documentary about ghosts, and he gets contacted by someone who believes their house is haunted and sends him some evidence, and he's like, sure, I'll go investigate your house. Pretty straightforward found footage premise. Shockingly little happens in this movie, and I don't know why, but the ending was still so tense, even though it was shockingly tame for what was actually happening on screen. I don't know, it was weird. One thing I didn't like about this movie is that they put fucking music over the found footage, which kind of takes me out of it. I feel like if you're watching found footage, there shouldn't be music over it. This might be closer to a mockumentary than found footage, so I guess that makes sense, but I just don't like it. When there's a scary thing happening and it's supposed to be tensely quiet, and then you put ambient spooky music on it, really takes me out of it. But yeah, there's 9 of these movies. The guy who made The Blackwell Ghost made 9 of them. So if you want to basically just eat found footage movies that are pretty okay, like potato chips, this is the series for you. My standards for found footage are pretty low, if I'm being honest. I like pretty much all of them, so I liked it. I don't know if you'll like it, especially if you don't like found footage, but I liked it. Fresh. I don't know how to talk about the plot of this movie without spoiling it, but based off the title, take your best guess. This movie is very yucky, but stylistically, very clean. The directing and the pacing and the score are really vibey. I don't know. It definitely has a distinct aura. Yeah, this movie is neat. The premise is disgusting. I'm gonna put it in pretty damn good. Halloween. If I haven't lost you already, this is where I'm going to lose a lot of people. I hated this movie. I feel like nothing interesting happened in this movie. The kills were not interesting. None of the characters were interesting. They were actually all insufferable. I'm not the target audience, is what I'll say. You can get very mad at me if you like, but I'm putting it into boring. You can disagree, but I'm right. Devil's Pass, also known as the Dyatlov Pass incident. This is a movie that is kind of inspired by the actual events of the Dyatlov Pass incident, which, look it up if you haven't, but it's basically some crazy shit, which is kind of unexplainable, but people are trying to explain it with science, but also it seems very fishy. Happens in Russia, in the mountains. This movie is about people revisiting where that incident took place, and the first 2/3 of this movie are boring and stupid. And then the last third of this movie is awesome and stupid. I really had no interest in anything that was happening in this movie until it got to the end, and then they kind of went off the walls. They really threw so much at you in terms of supernatural stuff. I really don't want to spoil it because it was so funny to watch. But that made honestly the beginning that was pretty boring worth it. I'm going to put it into sure why not. It's definitely not the best found footage movie I've seen. It's definitely not in the top 10. But I do think that it's worth a shot if you want to watch a movie that's very cold and snowy, and then the ending is hilariously awesome. Having Dark Waters over here is so hater. I'm like, it doesn't matter what goes in this tier, you're the worst one. The Blackwell Ghost 2, which is the exact same as the Blackwell Ghost 1. Obviously it has like different things that happen, but it's like of the same caliber, which is, this is a found footage potato chip. So I'm just gonna put it directly next to it because it's like the same. I might end up watching all of these movies. I say that they're mid, but I might end up watching all 9 of them. What can I say? I love found footage. Anyway, House! This movie is awesome! This movie is absurd and silly and great. How do I describe this movie? This is a absurdist horror comedy, I guess is a good way to describe it, about a group of teenage girls who go to visit one of their aunts in a house that is very much haunted and creepy, and a bunch of weird stuff starts happening. The way this movie is edited and directed and the fucking script are so bizarre and so fun. This movie is a blast. This movie is incredible. It's so good. I'm not gonna put it in the very tippity top tier, only because like it's not generally the type of movie I reach for, but I did have a blast watching it. And now we're at the last 3 movies that I watched on Halloween Day, starting with Trick or Treat. I can't believe I haven't seen this movie before. This movie is also kind of an anthology that follows like a bunch of different stories in one town that happen on Halloween night and then like slowly link together. I could not see anything that happened in any of these stories coming either. They're very twisty, very fun. I feel like this is just like the perfect Halloween movie to put on. I'm going to put it in pretty damn good. Next, we have Suspiria, the 2018 version. I hoped they would do lesbians this time. This movie is incredible. This is the other Luca Guadagnino movie I watched. His directing style is so cool, and even though I didn't like the visuals of this movie as much in terms of like, it's not as like vibrant and like technicolor as the original is, which is one of the main things I liked about the original, it is still visually very beautiful. It's very like cold and neutral. The plot of this movie is like so entirely different from the original. The general like bones of the storytelling are the same, but like the way things are revealed and like a lot of the events that occur are entirely different. I like the way the story panned out in this better. I think I enjoyed this movie as much as I enjoyed the original, but like there are different things I enjoyed about it. I found the original basically be like 0% scary, but like this one is yucky. I'm literally going to put it directly next to its original. And then the absolute last movie, which is The First Omen. I've seen the original Omen and I thought it was fine. This movie is shockingly good, especially for a reboot. The visuals are very yucky. It does enough callback to the original without feeling like corny or like it's playing up the fact that it's a remake. It doesn't feel too fan servicey, if that makes sense. This movie basically follows a woman who moves to Italy in order to join a convent, and she begins to be very suspicious about her fellow nuns, if that makes sense. I'm going to put it in pretty damn good. And then I'm finally gonna move Dark Waters. And that concludes the list. So that is the tier list of all 51 movies I watched for Halloween. I know that it's still pretty top heavy. That's because I like movie. I love watch movie, even movie I think is just okay. I have fun watch movie. If you have any recommendations for movies you think I might like based off of what I have in this list, or if you have any reasons to yell at me based off of where I put your favorite movie low on this tier list, feel free to comment. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope you had a very good Halloween, and I hope you have a great November. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!